Hello again, everybody. Sebastian here. This is going to be a Watcher of Realms video. Hey, Lord Phineas is coming this weekend into the game. How good is he? Well, I think the Infernal factions are getting a power creep, and in this video, we'll showcase him in the Titanic Ruins. Lord Phineas is going to be a magic damage type dealer, fighter for the Infernal faction. Everything is really concentrated on his talent and his passives, and then that allows him to power up and then do the damage that he can do. Not only that, he will also boost his allies around him, especially those that are in his Infernal faction. So as you can see here, when the ally uses the ultimate, he gains these stacks of Viscount Flames. They can stack up to 5 times. Each one of these stacks increases his damage by 20, in critical damage by 25%. So easily 125% if you can get it to stack up 5 times. Additionally, he also grants critical damage plus 25% to the ally if they belong to the Infernal Blast. So essentially, yeah, if you bring in like a Soul Cleanser or Seal 2, he'll beef him up as well. Let's look at his passives. We have the Insidious Blaze here. Increases penetration by 7%. This is when you have him full skill for each burning effect on the target. And this will stack up to 7 times. The Blade of Treachery, which is actually activates by itself, is a basic attack, has a 25% chance to deal 270% damage. Again, this is all fully skilled, and inflict a stun. Well, just a little bit of control for the chainsaw mode of the Titanic Ruins. And you can also see that one of the benefits from this is that it also increases his range, right? Because his basic is only 1 tile. But then when this passive activates, which activates by itself, it'll go 2 tiles long. Deals 125% damage to 1 enemy, which you just deal with the basic. But one of the things, again, with its ultimate, like you can see here, it actually extends 3 tiles. It lasts for 20 seconds. If you have a fully skill, it only requires 900 to regenerate. Increases the attack by 50%. That is big. Doubles the effect of the Viscount Flame. Remember now that this will then go to 20 to 50 then, if that is the case. Gained by the hero while increasing attack range. Upon activation, deals 800% burst damage 1 time to 1 target in range. Then changes to the range attack. Then it removes all stacks of the Viscount Flame from the hero when the ultimate ends. So then you just have to redo it again. So kind of time so if you wanted to, you could time his ultimate, get it exhausted, and then activate the ultimate. So everybody around him, he builds up the Viscount Flames again. Boom, he's ready for the next round. His awakenings are actually decent. I found them to be very well put together. One of the first things here is, of course, in the bridge, in the Blade of Treachery, 5% increase in the chance of getting the stun. Number 1. Number 2 is now that he can put up his own burns. Remember, his passive needs those burns for him to be able to then increase penetration. He gets a boost, 5% attack on his A2. In his A3, when an Infernal Blast ally uses their ultimate, the talent switches to granting critical damage increase to them. So when the ally activates it. Now, here's the thing, is that his talent here, it says that for him, when the allies in the Infernal Blast activate their ultimate, they grant some critical damage, but notice that it's 25% here. If we go to an A3 Lord Phineas, that elevates to 50%. So now your allies do even more damage. Awaken 4, he gets even more penetration. And Awaken 5, when the ultimate ends, he has a 50% chance to keep those Viscount Flames stacks. So essentially, he doesn't lose them, as he does if he would be at base. All right. So that's kind of the introduction to him. Now, I actually toyed around with him in semrah with both an A0, his base, and then an A5, because I wanted to see how much we can push him. And since it's going to be just in the general pool, there is a large chance, especially if like a mid spender, to possibly get him to A5 or even build up some of his awakenings, A1, A2, A3, and so forth. So let me just show you kind of the build that I chose based on what I was seeing on his kit. Given that he builds subcritical damage, I wasn't really focused on trying to get him critical damage pieces. Everything was attack percentage. Where I could, I gave him a little bit of rage regen, so that is 50%. I know this more crit rate that I need, but at least we got him to 100. Some decent speed here. I mean, if you wanted to get more speed on him, yeah, put some attack speed in one of these pieces here. He does build up his own critical damage. All the testing that I did, full skill, and I used the Wailing Skull just to kind of set the base. Same thing with somebody like Silatu here. And I did A0, A5 as well. The fighters, I know that some of the fighters have their own exclusive artifacts. I just decided to just keep the Wailing Skull, and I will kind of walk you through it as we start seeing here the clips on semrah. I'm going to share with you a couple of clips that I collected on a couple of runs that I did here with Lord Phineas. First, I started with an A0 Lord Phineas compared to an A0 Silatu. I just really wanted to see how the two compared since they're in the same faction. I brought in as a Lord Sulcadence, and along with it is Percy. So we have 4 Infernals that are essentially going to be powered up by Lord Phineas here. And at the same time, we can then also beef up our Sulcadence at the same time. Kind of the standard compositions that you see being run for the very high scores for semrah. Now, in these situations here, I was just trying to get to the 120 mark, just to kind of give you an idea of where Lord Phineas is ranking as long as the battle extends out, because I really did think that he gets most of the damage as the longer the battle goes on. So we have these are all A0s. My Twala and my Kigiri here are A5. So if you're going to start comparing damage between the characters, keep that in mind, please. A5 for these two, A0 for Silatu, A0 for Lord Phineas. Now I'm just gonna quickly go through this first run, and then in the second run, I'll let it run just so you can kind of see how Lord Phineas is interacting. In that instance, then it would be a Silatu with an A5 and Lord Phineas in an A5, and then we can kind of keep track and decide as to who is doing the most damage as the battle goes on. Because once I set things up, then what I did is that I clicked on the current statistics. So here I'm just setting things up, and one of the things is that, at least for this run here, is that I really did not want to bring in anything else that could do stuns or anything like that, because I wanted to see how many stuns Lord Phineas could do, right? And try to mitigate the damage from the Saints up. Now, one of the things that I will say is that he does complement a composition if you bring a couple of stuns here and there. So let's say that you're a mid-game player, you only have Abomination. He can certainly help you put in 2 or 3 stacks along with Abomination, or somebody like Livian if you wanted to. But he, by himself, at least from what I learned here, he's not going to be able to completely control that chainsaw mode. So here, on the right hand, if you want to see here on the right hand side, you can kind of see the type of damage that I'm doing at the startup here with Lord Phineas, Sulcadence, Kigiri, Twyla, just to kind of get you a general idea of how things are going. And as you notice, at least with my A0 Silatu is lagging a little bit behind. It's not like Lord Phineas is blowing things out of the water. But I think that this at A0, even at base A0, if you had to make a decision between bringing your Silatu or Lord Phineas, I would bring in Lord Phineas, because he's definitely doing a lot more damage, especially at the beginning, than Silatu is. Now, what is really interesting for me is that Sulcadence is really keeping up as well with somebody like Kigiri. And a lot of that, I think, is because of how much Lord Phineas is contributing to increasing Sulcadence damage. So definitely, he is made to, number one, give you damage, right? It's not going to be to the scale of a Kigiri, and if I Kigiri, from what you've seen from the showcases of the the 400,000 mech fragment team. He is going to fare well if you bring somebody like him in here. It'll be somebody that you can use with your Infernals if you need to smack this guy around and get as many mech fragments as you can throughout the battle. So you can kind of see here, eventually what's happening here with an A5 Kigiri and an A5 Twilight is that they are kind of getting away from him a little bit, but he's trying his best to try to keep up. And this for an A0 is respectable, especially if I were to compare him to an A0 Kigiri and an A0 Kigiri for that. A0 Kigiri would probably trail a little bit. Twilight would probably keep up with him. But I'm just, in terms of the comparison with Silitu, I mean, this is a big boost to the Infernal Blast team as to how much damage the Lord Phineas can do. All right. So not to prolong the video too long, because you can kind of see the idea behind here. Oh, and then at the same time, when I activated, when I was trying to time Lord Phineas ultimate, I was trying to time it with Silitu because I wanted to make sure that the burns were up, right? So then I could get a couple of stuns during the chainsaw mode. It's just little things like that that you have to keep in mind about his kit, especially if you're going to use him here, and try to take advantage of it. Now, in this one, let me see here. So let me fast forward a little bit because you probably are curious as to how the battle ended. And it did not end well because I could not get to 120. And a lot of that is because I did not have control of the chainsaw. I did not bring enough stuns into the field. And then the other thing that was unfortunate about is that I had a little bit of a hard time keeping Sulcanins alive. So if I would have kept Sulcanins alive, I would have gotten to 120 a lot faster than I did for this examples. All right, let me fast forward here in the first run, and then I'm gonna let the second run play, and then you can all watch that one as scuffed as it was. So let me see here. Is this the? I think in this situation here is going to be where it kind of standing. So I kind of scaled up here. So you can kind of see that he started then getting a little bit more damage. We started to get a little bit more damage out of him. And started leaving Sulcanins behind a little bit. Kigiri is he's taking off. He's going off of himself. That's exactly what he does as the battle continues. So there you go. I ran out of time for this one, but at least we can get an idea. Right, you saw the damage card as it was progressing, and I did not want to save the key, but at least now I can get a kind of a baseline and start thinking to myself, if this is what an A0 can do, I wonder what an A5 can actually do. So yes, Silitu did trail a little bit. I did try to make sure that Constance cover everybody in her range, right, just so she could give a little bit of inspiration. When Percy inspired her allies, the top 3 attackers were the top 3 on the board. So, I mean, that's no surprise, right? I'm going to select the heroes that I think are going to do the most damage to get the most invigoration. All right, so that is kind of the difference there that you can see between Lord Phineas and Silitu. Okay, so now here comes the second run. Here's the second run. Now I'm swapping things out. So I'm bringing in my Lord Phineas that is A5. I'm bringing a Silitu that is A5. Everybody's pretty much the same. Now I am going to put Kigiri at even more disadvantage because now I'm going to take another Nightmare faction member away from him, and I bring Helga in just to at least help me a little bit with the chainsaw mode and try to see if we can push this a little bit more. But really, the comparison here that I really wanted to make was between Lord Phineas, Silitu, and then look to see, with the help of an A5 Kigiri, if the Infernal faction members here could push this to 120 relatively easily. All right, so here we go. Here's going to be the run. Yes, Sulcanins did die on me, and people started dying around me, but eventually I was able to get it to 120. Even though Lord Phineas did not die on me, because that was the guy that we were looking to keep alive and push. try to see how much damage we can do. That is really what matters here. So I did try to push this to illustrate the example that Lord Phineas can very well cover this content without an issue. All right, so I'm gonna let it play, and I will see you all at the end of the run. here we are getting to the end of the battle now. All right, so as you can see by the overall statistics and the damage calculations that were being done, Kagiri is doing his Kagiri things. He's going to take off and just do as much damage as he can, especially if the battle prolongs even longer than 120k fragments. But Lord Phineas did a phenomenal job. I mean, he is about, 90,000 behind Kagiri. And over the extension of the battle, Kagiri will pull away from him. But he is definitely doing a lot of damage to semrah here, and is kind of leaving Silittu behind. So Silittu is no longer the big damage dealer of the Infernal faction. It is actually Lord Phineas. And I hope that he was, because after all, he has Lord after his name on it. So he better be good. He did power up Sulkadens. Like I said, Sulkadens die on me. If he were to be persistent on the battlefield, I'm pretty sure the Sulkadens would have been able to take advantage of the fact that of the presence of Lord Phineas, along with all the other allies that were on the field, especially those from the Infernal Blast. And in this example, we were able to get 4 of them, take advantage of with 4 of them. You could try to, in the future, there are probably going to be more heroes where we are going to be able to be afforded to bring another fighter from this faction into this content. And I bet you then you can start then talking about possibly competing with the other factions in terms of putting a composition together that could very well tackle this content here. So Kagiri is the A5. Kagiri is in the SSS type of atmosphere when it comes to damage in this boss. I would say the Lord Phineas is in a respectable SS range. You can definitely bring him in. If you get him into your account, you can definitely bring him in, toy around with him, try to see what he can do for you, and put a nightmare or an infernal blast composition together. If that is what your account is affording you to try to tackle this content. Of course, early, mid-game, you're trying just to push 30k into APOC 1. He will definitely do your job. If you need somebody that can kind of boost you in terms of getting like from 50,000 to 80,000 chests, or make the jump from 80 to 120, then yes. For your account, yes, it might be a benefit to summon for him and get him added to your account. So that's my overview, at least in this manner, for Lord Phineas. It is an excellent hero to pursue or to get if you do want to progress in this content. Thank you all very much for tuning in and watching. As always, if you appreciated the content of this video, please do hit like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next Watch Your Realms video.